Kawashima Katana, for more American speakers, Kawashima. I don't see a lot of reviews of this either on the internet or on YouTube, so I figured I'd cover at least the example that I have, the good, the bad, and the questionable. I bought this particular example probably about 12-15 years ago, if I'm remembering correctly, about $275, which sounded like a great deal for what I was supposedly getting, and that should have told me something. What should have told me something after the fact was that the dealer that I had a lot of faith in at the time stopped carrying the product. They were super excited about it when they got them in, and then a short period of time later disappeared from the site without explanation. That should have told me something, but by then I already had a sense of this particular thing. Now, what it's supposed to be is Japanese made, 1095 high carbon steel, and differentially tempered, clay tempered. I can tell you it is very, very likely none of those three things. It was something that, was a much better deal than what was available then. Now, today, you can get actually really good swords at that price point. The thing is, as we seem to proceed in history, we get better quality things for less cost if you're going with a reputable manufacturer. Going back 10, 20, 30 years, yeah, swords were pretty expensive, and really at the time the only real competitor for those guys was Hanwei, and their prices were higher. But what this is, starting from the user-friendly end, the shape of the suka is not terribly bad. It's got a nice little taper to it. It feels really good in the hand. It's very comfortable. It's about 11.5 inches. But you can see the diamonds are extremely uneven. And that's because the wrapping's just not very well done, and it shifts a lot in the hand. It's probably a synthetic silk. Underneath it appears to be a real ray skin, but there are a lot of flaws in it, especially around the pinholes. And there's also a couple of mystery holes and things in it that I haven't quite understood. The fixtures are kind of a nice iron finished set of castings, and it does have the nice shitodome on here, which is cool, and you've got some gold looking manuki on it. But yeah, this is basically kind of a copy of the classical Hanwei Shinto Katana, which I wanted, but I didn't want to spend the money on it, and saw this deal and figured, hey, cool. Not so cool. There's the good and the bad on it. First of all, the first time I took it out cutting, the pommel, the kashira, popped right off and it unraveled. So I had to rewrap it and glue it back down. Since then, I haven't had a problem with it, but that was probably a bad sign. As for the saya, it's just a basic piano lacquered white wood. It does have the nice gold shitodome on the kuragata. The sugeyo is just a crappy piece of leftover ito. It's nothing special, and there are no special kind of fixtures. It's just wood. As a matter of fact, all the way through, it's just poorly painted white wood. Nothing fantastic. Fits the blade okay. There's a little bit of a rattle in it, but I don't have any trouble with it sticking or binding or anything like that. So good enough for Iaido, definitely. The blade shape itself, you've got a fairly standard, and it's kind of interesting. I don't know if you can see it in the particular lighting that I'm using here, but what you've got is it's a two-tone habaki. It's half copper, half brass. So that was a nice touch. And it fits the scabbard well, so that's not a problem. It fits the blade okay. There's no problem with that. The blade itself is a fairly standard Shinogi Zukiri. It's about 27 inches long. So compared to a lot of things you pick up today, a little bit on the short side, but great for me. Combination of that 11.5 inch handle length, 27 inch blade, that's a really good handling sword for me. And the weight's probably 2 pounds, 8 ounces, so it's a good handling sword, good weight, good balance. Nothing wrong with that. Same thing with the blade shape and profile. It has, all the proper components to it. It's got pretty even planes. It's got a nice distal taper. So the balance on the blade it's not bad at all. The finish on the blade, not bad at all, except for the fact that hem and that temper line is clearly etched on. It's fake. As for the steel, if you've been around steels long enough, you kind of get a sense from the color of the steel what grade it is, and I would probably guess this is a 1060 through-hardened blade. Hardness probably floating somewhere around 50, 52. It's not the hardest sword on the planet. It does hold an edge, and I have done a lot of cutting with it without damaging it or bending it. And that's everything from light cutting targets up to tree branches. But again, something you're probably not going to see in this video is the surface has taken some scuffing, but there's no real chips in the blade or anything like that. But again, there's so many corners cut compared to what I was expecting to get. And compared to what you can buy today. Now, obviously, this is probably a step above your $50, $60, Musha Katana or something like that in terms of a good blade for practice and a reasonable blade for just sitting and showing off. But it's not a great sword. Would I buy another one? No, definitely not. Would I recommend that you get one? Probably not. You've got a lot of better choices out there. But for a functional practice sword, it's been a decent companion, and since I actually glued the pommel back on, I haven't had to worry really about it that much anymore. But again, it's just not the nicest, most high quality piece, and I think the biggest insult is it's definitely not what it was supposed to be. So I cannot recommend this manufacturer to give you what they say they're going to deliver. Now, I still occasionally see them listed. They're hard to find out there. I don't know what they're producing now, but I think the word is out that this is just something that was slapped together by one of the Chinese production smiths, and it's kind of cheap. Not the cheapest, not the junkiest, but far from even what I would consider mediocre today. So I wanted to kind of get that out there and talk about that, and I hope you found this informative, interesting, and I hope to see you again. Thanks.